It's a couple weeks away from Christmas, but this video will post on Christmas Day. So Merry Christmas, everybody. I brought these homemade reindeer with me all the way from Oregon. It's a holiday tradition for me to find a new place for them each Christmas. Back here behind the old barn seemed like a good place this year. It has been almost 6 months since I started this experimental compost system. I'm not ready to use the compost. I just wanted to see and share how the composting process is going so far. I'm Brian from Simple Moon Farm. This is Moonbase 1 composting station. Today I'll be digging into part of the pile to get a visual sense for what's going on. The perforated pipe is intended to let air and water down into the pile, so I don't have to turn the compost myself. Microbial life does the composting, but it requires air and water to thrive. I don't know what we're going to see. Static piles tend to take much longer to compost. They also tend to favor fungal decomposition. This compost is high in nitrogen. It's mostly grass clippings. That kind of compost tends to favor bacteria decomposition. Mostly, I'm just hoping to see organic material that looks like soil. Fungal dominant soil is said to be superior to bacteria dominant soil. But wherever you end up using your actual compost later, the conditions there will probably determine what survives to work symbiotically with your plants. This compost has not been turned. It's just been layered up with grass clippings and sawdust for the most part. I did spray down the grass with water each time before forking it onto the pile. I'm hoping that that helped the composting process along. In addition to that main compost, I've also maintained 2 control compost piles. They each had the same material inputs as that larger one. This compost obviously did not have the pipes for air and water infiltration. Also, the grass was not pre-sprayed down with water. The grass in this compost pile was pre-sprayed down with water. It also did not have those perforated pipes to help nurture the microbial life. That main compost pile is quite a distance from the house, so it was my practice to only pour additional water down those pipes when I was out there already to heap more material on it. We have had a relatively wet spring and a relatively dry summer. The grass grows really fast in the spring and slow in the late summer, so the moisture levels were probably low in the summer. Here in Missouri, however, we have a lot of humidity that was continuously condensing on those pipes and being directed into the compost. Let's go ahead and take a look at what this compost looks like. I'm going to start here on this pile, and this is just a note for myself. I'm facing north, and I'm going to work on the left side of the pile. That way, half a year from now, I can look at these same control compost piles and try to look at the side that I didn't work on before, the undisturbed side. Alright, so I did see a little bit of steam coming up. That's a good sign. We've got some things here that look pretty good. This is nice and dark, becoming really good soil, it looks like to me. A lot of material is not broken down at all. An awful lot of material is not broken down at all. Of course, the outer layers, those outer layers have not had all that much time to decompose, so It's mostly the inner core that we're looking at for a good judge of what 6 months on is doing. We'll check the others. This pile is much lower and more spread out than that other pile. I think animals were probably aerating this pile for me against my wishes. Let's take a look at it anyways and see what's going on. This is the no extra water added pile, and it is really almost all uncomposted material. I'm not seeing much of anything. I'm seeing some grass that looks a little bit soggy, like it's falling apart a little bit, but there's almost no compost here. It's all pretty much just dry material, looking a lot like when I put it on to start with. The anticipation of digging into that compost pile is kind of like opening a present. All right, so I was hoping to see a little bit better decomposition at this point. It's a little bit better than that last pile, but it still looks an awful lot like grass to me. It might be just a little bit better than those other two compost piles. Okay, let me grab a piece of it here again. So this is what we're looking at. It's well on its way. Still looks a little bit dry to me, so I think this thing probably needed more water. Interestingly, the stuff that's kind of sloughed off around the perimeter, it's a kind of a thin layer around the whole compost station. That looks a whole lot more like compost to me. I think the limiting factor is water. When it gets thin around the outside like this, rain can really soak into it and get it nice and wet. I think the microbes in this pile were just crying out for water. My wife said it best. It's difficult for me to wrap my head around just how different it is from the Pacific Northwest to this southern Midwest climate here in Missouri. I honestly thought that water introduced to the center of the pile would be conserved better, that it would last longer and not just evaporate or drain away. Clearly, condensed humidity draining into the center of the compost was an inadequate IV to sustain the patient. Back in Oregon, the sogginess is pervasive and the sogginess lingers. Here in Missouri, it might be better if it rains a little before you mow, because the moisture on the lawn is more transitory and it just helps keep the dust down. Real hands in the dirt experience is what it's going to take for me to find the right balance here. The gift for me in this video has to be the opportunity to change course, to water the compost more and more often, and see if that makes a difference by spring. May God bless you and the ones you love this holiday season. Thanks for watching. Remember, your dreams are closer than the moon. Thanks for taking this trip around the moon with us.